a first-of-its-kind exhibit, a plan to rescue devils, and you'll get to meet some new additions to this zoo family. The Toledo Zoo and Aquarium's Tembo Trail opened in phases from 1987 to 1989 as the African Savanna. In 2012, they reworked this area, losing some animals in the process, but at least it doubled their trunk space. It stuck with the African theme for a bit, but now it might arguably be the weirdest mix of mammals that you will ever see. Before we begin, if you haven't already, I would love it if you press those like and subscribe buttons to officially join the zoo crew. Then, I would like all of you to comment below, what is your most brag-worthy zoo moment or experience? I get that this is really themed after elephants now, but come on, put those hippo statues back on that arch right there, please. So this started as an African exhibit, and still was one even after the overhaul, but now it's all over the place. A zoo nerd's worst nightmare. But when you have Tasmanian devils, you can break all the geography rules you want. Devils disappeared from American zoos sometime in the 90s. They made a small comeback like 15 years later, nearly disappeared again, and are rebounding once more. Toledo displays a pair right here, but they recently converted a dingo exhibit towards the zoo's entrance into a devil sanctuary similar to the ones that you might find in Tasmania. In both areas mention the very fatal devil facial tumor disease, a contagious cancer that shot the wild population into a decline by over 80% in less than 20 years. The zoo teamed up with the Australian government to get those numbers back on track. Of all the places, not only did they send Toledo 8 of these little devils, the zoo will be a distribution hub for the species coming into the US. Then it's Toledo's job to send them to other zoos in America under breeding recommendations. Oh, and zoo officials also discovered that devils are biofluorescent, which is when an animal absorbs high energy light and re-emits it. Now, I'm not really the one who should be explaining this to you, so you can read more about it below. If you've been following our Toledo series, you know this is a very historical place. 5 of their attractions were built during the Great Depression and are still kicking. The Hippoquarium, TM. It looks like every other hippo home these days. In America, the ones in Europe are completely unmatched. I mentioned another time that Toledo is one of the best zoos to visit in the winter, not just because it has so many indoor features, but I've seen the hippos outside when it was 35 degrees Fahrenheit. But just in case, you can also see them inside across from the devils, when this isn't boarded up. Hippos have been in zoos for hundreds of years, but when you're dealing with a multi-ton beast that shoots out more waste daily than we do in an entire year, things can get messy. Now, just look at this. So majestic underwater, and we take these views for granted, except for him. He appreciates it. When this opened in 1986, it didn't necessarily become the first underwater hippo viewing, as some people might tell you. But more specifically, this exhibit featured the world's first successfully filtered underwater viewing of hippos, offering crystal clear experiences that we now see as such a common thing. And this is where it all started. In the same viewing shelter, there's a similar setup, but like 1/10 the size. But there's a lot more activity. Apparently this was the outdoor crocodile hangout. Devils have the indoor spot, otters get the outdoors, I think. Another common animal, but so far I've been showing you clips of 2 different species. African spotted-necked otters until North American river otters took over. What's the difference? Spotted necks are a little smaller, 13 pounds versus around 20 pounds. Obviously, one of the differences is in the name. The otters from Africa have spots on their chest and necular area, while river otters do not. But if you can't tell who's who from that, the ones with spots have proportionally large front webbed feet, so large that they look like they belong to a seal, while our fellow American friends carry front feet that sometimes from certain angles look like human hands if humans had claws. And that brings us to the attraction's namesake. For all the non-amateur Swahili speakers out there, Tembo means elephant. As of October 2024, Toledo has 4 African bush elephants, 1 9,500-pound bull, 2 old-timer ladies, and earlier this year they spawned Kirka. At the time, 250 pounds of pure joy when they were born. As I said, this area went through a remodel with elephants in mind, doubling the space and upgrading the husbandry. It went from having just 1 exhibit, to having 1 private yard, and 2 public exhibits to combine nearly 40,000 square feet, which is just under an acre. The one on the right, by the way, is actually best viewed from the plaza before you even go through the entrance. It's not the biggest thing, but I can appreciate the unique look. You can get super close to each other. The residents can keep themselves pretty busy, mostly with tattered tires. There's an enrichment wall, and at least their version of utilitarians turned out to be more useful aesthetically than San Diego's did. The trail around here will take you on a boardwalk that will also elevate you past the hippos, revealing an aerial view of the entire exhibit through this tiny window, while you're also standing over the pool at the same time. If you happen to see all 4 giants outside, I don't care. I implore you to go into the elephant house no matter what. You can say that you saw the entire zoo. You can also really take in that smell, which is incredible. I don't care what people say, it's nostalgic to me. And they took a page out of Cleveland's book and put naked mole rats also in the elephant complex, and apparently they even dropped a mole rat flavored Pop-Tart. If you guys could come up with a really funny name for this flavor, you will win my respect. Again, this isn't flashy, but it's still very unique. The windows close and open to the outside. You can see nearly the entire complex from right here. I've seen, I think, 27 elephant exhibits, and only twice have I witnessed the animals be given the choice to move inside and out no matter what time it was. Our next stop, in its heyday when this exhibit's theme made more sense, you'd find a pair of white rhinos, later filled in for an Indian rhinoceros. So I guess this would also be a good time to point out who's who. Even in this case, it's more obvious. For the Indian rhino, nature said that 1 horn was enough, while white rhinos rock 2, and they're 3 times longer. Here's a case of big versus beef. The Asian unicorns are a little on the rounder side, while their African cousins look a little more fit and leaner. But their skin is another dead giveaway. The skin on the 2-horned rhinos looks custom fitted, almost streamlined, while Indian and Javan rhinos are very famous for their folds, which it looks like nature seemingly designed for built-in body armor, like they're ready to waddle right into battle. The next exhibit is going to reveal how much of a nerd I am, I guess. I like to think of this as the defense against the dark arts position at Hogwarts of the zoo world, because no one can hold the job. Bongos, cattle, yak, reindeer, camels, and now Takins. No one around us knew what this was, and I actually pitied the crowd for once in my life, because there was no signage at the time. A Takin is in a subfamily of goat antelopes and in the family of cloven-hoofed mammals, also known as bovids. It looks like a bison and a goat had a wild night out. They're surprisingly agile for their size and built for the rugged mountains of the eastern Himalayas. I wouldn't exactly call this species rare, but when my local zoo gets rid of theirs for kangaroos and San Diego's puts all of theirs off display, it makes Tenzins, lilies, and poppies' arrival all the more welcoming. Kopje. A kopje is basically a large rock formation in an open field, giving the animals a chance to see their surroundings for miles. Lots of zoos have them and are hit or miss, but this is what I think of when I think of a kopje. Our vantage points are very small and tight, so you can never really see the entire enclosure, so it feels a lot more rewarding when you can finally spot those meerkats. And our elephant trail will end with the zoo's newest big thing. The Kodiak Ridge. Remember when I said this used to be an African exhibit? You probably didn't remember. Well, this was home to Siegfried and Roy's Cincinnati-born white lion trio, and they were survived by 2 rescued grizzlies and a Kodiak bear. But 3,300 square feet, nothing to brag about for such burly beasts. So in 2023, they did a complete transformation. They pushed the fence line back as far as possible so that now you can see them from both the Tembo Trail and the Tiger Terrace. The guest side is fantastic and very engaging. You got a cool statue, a 2-way hollowed out tree so you're breathing the same air as the bears. Despite all the new space, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a close encounter. And the education is definitely top notch. There's even a sand pit on our side and their side as well, so the bears and the kids can quote unquote dig together. But you can really tell that they put a medium amount of thought into their interior. To be fair, I guess you gotta give it some time for new exhibits to grow. At least, the rescues can now walk a few feet without running into each other. And there you have it, folks. The wild, the wonderful, and delightfully random Tembo Trail at the Toledo Zoo. Now, in reality, the trail escorts you back into the entrance plaza, where you will come face to face with the historic reptile house, which we will explore in the next episode. So, as always, stay tuned, stay wild, and thank you all for watching Zoo Tours.